Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah wa salatu wassalamu ala Rasulullah. We continue reading from Imam Al-Ghazali's The 99 Beautiful Names of God. Al-Maqsad al-Asna fi Sharh Asma'illahi al-Husna. Translated by David Borel and Nazir Bahir. We have reached numbers 75 and 76. Al-Bahir al-Batin. This is on page 134. Imam Ghazali rahimahullah said, Al-Zahir al-Batin, here translated as the manifest, the hidden, said these two attributes are also to be taken relatively, for what is manifest can be evident to one thing and hidden from another. Yet it cannot be manifest and hidden in one and the same respect, though it may be manifest in relation to a perception and hidden in another respect. For things are manifest or hidden only in relation to modes of perception. Now God, may He be praised and exalted, is hidden when He is sought by sensory perception or using the resources of imagination, yet manifest when sought by way of inference, using the resources of reason. One might think of Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam when he asked to see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this would be a like as a example of directly seeking sensory perception. Let me see you. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala responded by saying, you will not see me. But look at that, look at the mountain. If it stays in its place, then you may see him. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed Himself, manifested Himself to the mountain withered away. Yes. So it's impossible to see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this dunya, as the scholars would obviously they differentiated between the possibility of seeing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with our eyes in this dunya, because we are not fit, meaning that it's possible to have beatific vision in the hereafter. So ولما جاء موسى لميقاتنا وكلمه ربه قال ربي أرني أنظر إليك قال لن تراني ولكن انظر إلى الجبل فإن استقر مكانه سوف تراني فلما تجلى ربه للجبل جعله دكا وخر موسى صاعقا فلما أفاق قال سبحانك تبت إليك وأنا أول المؤمنين. So that's not possible for human beings to see, and this is the Kalimullah, Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam, and it's simply not within human reach to see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And as a result, as looking at the mountain, so Musa alayhi salam was permitted to look at the mountain when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed Himself to the mountain, and the mountain withered away, literally it disappeared, and Musa alayhi salam fell, fainted, shocked when he got out of it. He regained consciousness. He praised Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and repented. So seeking to see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with sensory perception is impossible. If you say so far as that's the existence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is hidden with respect to sensory perception, of course. But as to His being manifest to reason, that is obscure, since what is manifest is that which is not in doubt, and about whose perception men do not differ. Yet this subject is one over which much Doubt arises among men. So how can it be evident? But you should realize that He, subhanahu wa ta'ala, is hidden in His manifestations by the intense way in which He is manifest. For His manifestness is the reason for His being hidden, as His very light blocks His light. His very light blocks His light. I think it's a beautiful um, His light in the story of the ascension. Talk about the Isra and Mi'raj, the night journey at night, if you will, and hadith narrated by Muslim when uh, when the Prophet ﷺ was asked, Abu Dhar radiallahu anh, he asked the Prophet ﷺ, uh, did you see your Lord? Did you see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? In in the text in the of this hadith of Muslim, the narration of Muslim, he said, did you ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? He said, رأيت نورا, I saw light. In a different text, uh, the answer was نور أنا أراه, نور أنا أراه. It, and this is the one that I am interested in, though it seems not on the same level. It is Sahih, by the way. But this is the one that I'm interested in relation to what is mentioned by Imam Al-Ghazali here, saying that his very light blocks his light. So the nur itself blocks the it blocks vision, except that obviously, Wallahu alam, during the um, even the companions themselves did not have a consensus on whether the Prophet ﷺ saw his Lord, because really um because the Quran speaks also about ما كذب الفؤاد ما رأى. I think this is important to remember this. It's about the heart seeing. At any rate, if it's really about the heart seeing, then the eye could not. So it is that whatever broaches its limits is turned into its opposite. Perhaps you are, Imam Ghazali continues, perhaps you are astonished by this teaching and find it far-fetched. So you may need an example to understand it. So I say, if you consider a single word written by an author, you would infer from it that an author exists who is knowledgeable, competent, able to hear and see, and you would derive from that the certainty that those attributes exist. Now, part of what Imam Ghazali is that he did say that for the most part, for the average person writing, because ultimately it's not necessarily that those who write are able to hear and see. Okay, there are people who are blind, and today, alhamdulillah, you have computer programs that help them to write. That's one thing. And it could be the case that one could teach the blind to write without being able to see. At any rate, let's continue reading. and you derive from that the certainty that those attributes exist. Furthermore, if you saw a written word, that would lead you to a definite certainty regarding the existence of its author, knowledgeable, competent, able to hear and see, and living. But nothing points to him except the shape of a single word. Even if you'll find exceptions, even if you say by since someone, an author wrote, if you say this is indicative of having at least one hand and fingers, and that's not necessarily the case. There are those who were born without hands, without arms, and they learn to write with their with their feet, with their toes. Again, it's an exception. Yet, just as your seeing the world offers clear testimony to the attributes of the author, so there is not an atom in the universe and the earth, no planet, star, sun, or moon, animal or plant, or characteristic of any subject which does not bear witness by itself to the need of an organizer to arrange it, plan it, and specify it with its proper qualities. You would know if we ask people to differentiate between just simply between that which is natural and that um, which is man-made. People can. I mean, kids can. Uh, the difference between a table and a tree. Okay, but that tree, we know that the table. You talk about the workmanship of the carpenter, for example. Uh, it could be the ironsmith if it's made out of iron. But the idea is you realize immediately that the table needs an artisan to make it, to plan it, to organize it, etc. And in this universe, what about it? Doesn't it need an organizer? Nor can man consider himself, since he mentions here the planet, the star, sun, moon. We talk about the cosmos really, and the Quran invites us to think about, to ponder upon the universe. ويتفكرون في خلق السماوات والأرض ربنا ما خلقت هذا باطلا سبحانك وقنا عذاب النار. And they think, of course, they are the people who mention Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, mention His name in prayer, in dhikr, in standing, in sitting, and laying down uh, on their sides, and they think about, they ponder upon the universe, and they reach the conclusion, oh our Lord, you did not create all this in vain. There's a purpose for all this. Praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and seeking refuge in Him from hellfire. Nor can man consider himself in the arrangement of his members and parts among themselves, external and internal, as well as the attributes and states of his which carry on all autonomically through no choice of his, without seeing in them an eloquent witness to the one who created them, determined them, and arranged them. So it is with everything that sees with all its senses, within itself or outside itself. While things may differ in bearing witness, as some of them do while others do not, nevertheless, certitude is attained overall. However, many witnesses, to the extent that they coincide, may be hidden or obscure due to the very intensity of their evidence. For instance, what is most evident is what is perceived by the senses, and the most evident of these is what is perceived by the sense of sight. This reminds us of the order of Imam Al-Ghazali's argument when he was in Baghdad and he had his uh, the systematic doubt, and he did use the same argument about the sight being the strongest of the senses. Yes. وأظهرها ما يدرك بحاسة البصر. And the most evident of the things perceived by the sense of sight is the light of the sun shining on bodies, by which everything becomes manifest. Now, how can that by which everything now how can that by which everything becomes manifest not itself be manifest? Yet that poses difficulties for many people, so that they say colored things have only their colors in them, like black or red, and do not have, along with the color, a radiance. Or a light connected with the color. Yet these people are made conscious of light and color things by the contrast which they perceive between the shade and the positing of the light, as between night and day, for the sun may be thought to be hidden at night or eclipsed by dark objects during the day, so that its effects are cut off from colored things. So a contrast is noted between what is affected and illuminated by it, and what is dark and shielded from it. Which is fascinating because we're not going. I'm saying fascinating because looking at Imam al-Ghazali's narrative within the state of science during his time. So the existence of light is known by the absence of light. If the condition of absence is set beside the condition of existence, the contrast is perceived, despite the fact that the colors perdure in both states. So if the light of the sun were to encompass everybody visible to a person, and the sun were never hidden so that the contrast could be perceived, it would be impossible for one to know that light is an existing thing added to the colors, despite the fact that it is the most manifest of things, as that by which all things become visible. where it conceived that God, the Most High, and the Holy One, cease to exist or be hidden from some things, heaven and earth would collapse, along with everything cut off from His light. And I mean, if one thinks about uh, okay, I mean, it could be something direct like ما يمسكون إلا الرحمن. You talk about birds in the sky, but this is the same about uh, uh, everything that flies in terms of the laws that Allah Subhanahu wa Taala has uh, created in the universe. But it's much more. ما يمسكون إلا الرحمن, meaning that ultimately even the laws themselves are in the hands of Allah Subhanahu wa Taala. And when we read, for example, are you the ones who plant these plants, or is it us? أنتم تزرعونها أم نحن الزارعون? Yes, you go and you till the land, tillage is good. You plant, you irrigate, you weed, uh, but ultimately it's in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this goes into every single human activity. On one level, you are acting, but rest assured that you have been guided, things have been facilitated for you, it's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is why true tawheed from Imam Al-Ghazali is to see everything coming from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. However, inasmuch as all things concur in bearing witness, and all the states succeed one another in a uniform order, this becomes the very cause of his being hidden. So praise be to him who is concealed from creatures by his light, and hidden from them by the intensity of his manifestations. He is the manifest one, than whom there is none more manifest, as well as the hidden one, than whom none is more hidden. Counsel: you must not marvel at this apparent paradox among the attributes of God, the Most High and Holy One. For the intention ratio, for the intention, as is ratio, by which a man is human is both manifest and hidden. It is manifest in that it may be inferred from his wise and orderly actions, hidden if it is sought by sensory perception. For the senses only bear on the external skin, yet a man is not human by virtue of his visible skin. For if that skin were to be altered, or even the rest of his parts changed, he would remain himself while his parts were changed. One might say that we go through these changes all the time. It takes some time, but your blood changes, takes time, your skin changes, etc. It could be that all the parts of man after he has grown up are no longer the parts which were his when he was small, for they disintegrated over a long period of time, and were changed into one like them as a result of nourishment received, and yet his nature is not changed, for that nature is hidden from the senses, but manifest to reason by way of inferring to it from its results and its actions, from its fruits. Yes, people can, and there's an element that will continue to be hidden. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows what's in our hearts. we ultimately have to trust. It's not trusting your senses. You have to trust people. Um, One aspect where people ultimately make a decision when people get married, for both, they think that this person is the one, and they might be disappointed. And for the most part, if their marriage is based on appearances, that which is manifest to the senses, and not based on that which it is hidden, but there are indications. But if one is ignores this aspect altogether, it could be the case. The warning, the warning about the المرأة الحسناء في منبت السوء خضراء الدمن. Uh, it's about it's a warning against being deceived by appearances, or that he's Mr. Handsome. It's the same story, and probably this is why we end up right now. Something never existed in the past. Uh, Today we have more than half of all newlywed couples in Palestine. They get divorced, and it doesn't take long. They simply discover that which is manifest. That which is manifest is not indicative of that which is hidden. The hidden is problematic. Uh, Lowly desires, materialism, consumerism. Um, Ultimately, people get tired, bored also. So, inshallah, we will continue with the next one, number 77. We have 77 and 78. And maybe the order is different in English than the Arabic. Okay, so practically we'll be dealing with Al-Bar, and this is number 79 for Al-Wali and Muta'ali. Imam Ghazali put them after 85. Until the next session, inshallah. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.